Hey, today I want to talk to you for a second about finding belonging and finding community in the church and how the church kind of works in a way where we do find belonging and community, and anyone can find belonging and community. One of the verses that we read this past Sunday was from Ephesians 5, verses 15 to 20. And I'm going to focus just on verse 16. It says, make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. And that's not just talking about the gathering. That's talking about lots of things. But to think about the gathering, making the most of the opportunities that we have together. Like, we want to get together. We want to be together. We're called to be together. This is what God is. This is the way that one of the primary ways that God uses to shape us is within community. And when we're in community, we find belonging and we find connection. I get this little magazine called Common Good, and there was an article in it. This is from last year, but it talks about like what happens when sports and church conflict, and it's talking a lot about the ways that families feel pulled in multiple different directions. Like, should we do sports activities in lieu of, at the exception of going to church? Like, what happens when sports are scheduled when church is? Like, how do I kind of navigate that? And there was an interesting comment that someone made. It's talking about. It says, whenever there's a conflict between a game and a youth group event, they're likely to choose sports. Then, when they are able to attend church or youth group, it feels awkward for them that the other students have lots of shared experiences through youth group activities. And if they're outsiders at church, they stop attending anything. I've seen this happen over and over again, regardless of how many times students and parents say church is important and it's just for a season. Now, I don't want to argue the sports church thing. When I was in student ministry, I saw that exact same thing. I'll just say dozens. It was probably hundreds, but I saw it dozens of times. I saw that kids would miss youth group activities. They'd miss student ministry activities for a long period of time. And while all of those other students in that ministry were getting together, maybe it was going on a trip, and maybe it was just on Wednesday nights and Sunday nights. In any case, they are building shared experiences. They're finding belonging. They're finding connection. They're building a community. And then when students who have dropped out for a season, they come back, what they find is they don't have the same kinds of connections that all of these other students have. And they can feel on the outs of that. And I've seen the exact same thing happen with adults in church. The exact same thing. When all we do is get together on Sunday mornings. If you miss enough of those, when you come back, we all have had a number of shared experiences together. And even if it is only singing together, praying together, hearing the word together, fellowshipping together, like being in the same space together, like if that's all that it is, you are missing out. And you are going to feel disconnected from the rest of the body. One of the ways, the primary way that we teach at WestWay Christian Church is we teach primarily in a linear way. We start at the beginning of a book of the Bible and we go through the end of the book of the Bible. So just like any good book, the Bible builds on itself. So for people who kind of drop in like 5 or 6 weeks into a series, like, there's context. There have been things that we've been talking about. This whole thing has been building. It's kind of like a staircase. And if you just drop right in to week 5 or week 6 of a series and you feel lost, let me tell you something. There's a reason for that. And the reason is because you haven't had the same shared experience as everyone else has. You haven't, unless you've been listening, unless you listen on podcast or watch online, which I would hope you would do that if you miss. But if you're not doing those things, if you just show up 5 or 6 weeks in, of course you're going to be lost. Why wouldn't you be lost? You have no idea what we're talking about. I want to encourage you to be a part of what's happening. Because sometimes that disconnection that we feel when we're not a part of what's happening, like we need to own that disconnection. When I was in high school, my senior year, the summer of my senior year, I had a pretty severe back injury. And like I was in the hospital for a while. I missed probably the first 3 weeks of school. And I wasn't good at math anyway. I wasn't good at science anyway. Like I just didn't have that naturally developed. But man, I dropped into chemistry like 3 weeks in. And as bad as I was at math, as bad as I was at science, like I just had no hope of catching up. There was just no way I was going to catch up. I want to encourage you to value the community, to care about the community. I want to encourage you to pursue community. It's the beginning of 2025. New year, lots of opportunities to do things differently. But you'll only do things differently if you do them differently. I want you to know that I love you and I'm praying with you and I'm praying for you. And I hope to see you on Sunday.